Huge news! Electric car sales are dropping fast. Even the Biden administration has officially abandoned its ambitious goal to make 2/3 of new vehicles all electric by 2032. They've dialed back their expectations, but that hasn't turned things around. Every new report shows slower growth in the electric vehicle industry. But what's behind this decline in sales? In this video, we will give you 6 real reasons why EV sales are falling. Get ready for some top brass secret. At number 6, price and insurance costs. Yes, it's accurate that electric vehicles are becoming less expensive, but they're still not cheap enough for most people to buy regularly. In the past year, the typical price for a brand new EV ranged from $50,000 to $60,000, depending on where you look. This is better than the average cost in 2022, which was about $65,000. However, it's still much more expensive than what most people usually spend on cars. Let's explain this more. Gas-powered cars, for instance, have an average price of $48,000, which is lower compared to EVs. However, the main issue isn't just the average price, it's also the limited availability of affordable EV models. Currently, there are only a handful of electric vehicles that begin below $30,000, with a few more falling within the $30,000 to $40,000 range. The majority of EV options on the market are priced much higher than this, making them out of reach for many mainstream buyers who are on a budget. Therefore, the lack of affordable options restricts the choices for potential EV purchasers. Taking into account the affordability factor and the observation that hybrids tend to be notably cheaper, averaging around $40,000, it's understandable why gas-electric vehicles are experiencing a faster growth rate compared to EVs. This trend is particularly evident among customers who prioritize environmental concerns. Hybrid vehicles present a sensible option for these consumers due to their lower prices and additional benefits, such as mitigating concerns about range and charging anxiety associated with fully electric vehicles. Also, it's important to keep in mind that expenses don't end with the purchase. There's also the insurance, which is in the case of EVs notably higher compared to gas-powered counterparts, for reasons like higher MSRP, lower reliability ratings, lower resale value, and many other things we'll still talk about. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this video, do well to give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to show your support. If you've done that, let's continue. Number 5, market oversupply. There are a lot of reports about how electric cars are just sitting at car stores, not getting sold. Dealers are really sad about this because not many people are buying electric cars right now. Also, the dealers don't even want to try selling them, which makes sense because there are too many electric cars in stock, more than 100 days worth. That's much more than what's usual in the car industry. You might be wondering why. Well, here's why. Last year, the supply chain problem finally got fixed, so car companies could make cars as fast as they wanted to. This was expected because car production had been growing a lot in the past few years, by more than 90% each year. And guess what? The supply increased by more than 500%. That's a lot. Also, the growth rate has slowed down a lot after a couple of years of really big growth, like 90% or more. Last year, the growth was only about 50%. Even now, electric cars make up less than 8% of all the cars sold in the US. People thought this number would be higher by now, and since there are way more electric cars than people want to buy, it's not surprising that dealers are having a hard time selling them all. Car companies base their production plans on how many people were buying electric cars during the early years when only a few people were trying them out. But now, that phase is done, and regular people are still not sure if they want electric cars or not. Because of that, we might see even fewer electric cars being made in the next few months. That's why it's not surprising that some car companies are deciding to make fewer electric cars for now. Number 4, range and charging anxiety. No doubt, one big reason why people aren't ready for electric cars yet is because of how far they can go on one charge and the difficulty of finding places to charge them. Electric cars have gotten better at going longer distances in recent years. Nowadays, lots of electric cars can go more than 300 miles before needing to charge again. That's good, but it's still not ideal for long trips unless you're okay with stopping often to charge up. Plus, from what we've seen, batteries in electric cars don't always work as well as they should. The battery's performance can be really different depending on the situation. For instance, in cold weather, the battery might not last as long. And if you're really pushing the car hard, like towing stuff or going off-road, the battery drains super fast. Recent tests showed this clearly, meaning electric pickup trucks won't be the big thing in the market anytime soon. Then there's another worry about charging. A big reason why people aren't buying electric cars is because there aren't enough places to charge them, especially in many areas. Public charging stations are still not enough, and many people can't charge their cars at home either. Even in places where electric cars are common, like San Francisco Bay, there are problems with chargers. In the last year, almost 1 out of every 5 times someone tried to charge their car there, it didn't work. Number 3, repair cost and low reliability. Electric cars are supposed to be simpler than regular cars, with fewer things that can go wrong. But according to a recent report by Consumer Reports, electric cars are actually 80% less reliable than regular cars. Problems like software glitches, battery and charging failures, poor assembly, and quality control issues are keeping people from buying electric cars. Just take a look at the new Chevy Blazer EV, which turned out to be one of the biggest disasters we've seen in a long time, with problems in pretty much every aspect of the vehicle. Software issues, battery and charging failures, things were so serious that GM had no other option but to stop selling this EV until it solved these issues. But reliability isn't the only concern. Another thing to think about is how much it costs to keep an electric car running. You'd think electric cars would be cheaper because you don't need to change the oil and stuff like that. But electric cars are a lot heavier, so you have to change the tires more often. And because they're heavy, the brakes wear out faster too, even with regenerative braking. That means more money for maintenance. Also, you have to think about how much it costs to fix an electric car. It's more expensive because there aren't as many people who know how to fix them. Plus, some things in electric cars are harder to fix, like the battery and the body. That means repairs can take longer and cost more. Honestly, electric cars just have a lot of issues that come with them. Number 2, resale value. When we buy a new car, we think about how much we can sell it for later. But with electric cars, it's harder to keep their value because not many people want to buy used electric cars. People worry about the battery, so they're not as interested in buying used electric cars. That means it's harder to sell them and get a good price. If you do sell them, you will probably end up in a huge loss. Because of that and a few other reasons, electric cars lose their value faster than regular cars. The latest info says electric cars lose almost 50% of their value in 5 years. To compare, regular cars lose about 38.8% of their value, and gas-powered cars are around 37%. Pickup trucks and hybrids lose their value even slower, but when we check out some of the most popular electric cars, there aren't many that keep their value very well. The Tesla Model 3 might be one of the few exceptions. After 5 years, it loses about 43% of its value, which is still a lot more than gas-powered cars lose. But some models, like the Nissan Leaf and Chevy Bolt, lose even more value. After 5 years, the Nissan Leaf loses about 50% of its value, and the Chevy Bolt loses about 51.1%. The Tesla Model S loses even more, around 55%. And the most expensive and fancy cars, like the Porsche Taycan, lose the most value of all. In some cases, that EV managed to lose more than $100,000 of its value in just 4 years. For comparison, the Porsche 911 loses less than 15% of its value over the same period. So you don't have to think twice when choosing between these two. Number 1. Bad technology. Electric car technology still has a long way to go. Even though electric cars have gotten a lot better, they're still not good enough for most people. Sure, they can be really fast, but besides that, what other benefits do they have? Electric cars still can't go as far on one charge as regular cars, and they're still more expensive. But the biggest issue is probably convenience. Electric cars mean you have to change how you live your life, and most people aren't ready for that. With electric cars, you'll spend a lot more time at charging stations than you would at gas stations, and not everyone can charge their car at home. In fact, a recent survey by Boston Consulting Group found that only 40% of people are thinking about buying an electric car. But even the people who are thinking about buying electric cars have really high standards. They want a car that costs $50,000, can go 350 miles on one charge, and only takes 20 minutes to charge up. Right now, there's only one electric car that meets all of these requirements: the Hyundai Ioniq 6 SE rear-wheel drive long range. So it's clear that there's still a lot of work to do to make electric cars better. And that brings up another problem: buyer's remorse. Some people don't want to spend a lot of money on something that will either become outdated in a few years or get a lot cheaper. Alright, we've come to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and let us know your thoughts in the comment section. We'll see you in our next video.